So the sun, roughly every 6 days, moves into a new gate. And so we just kind of look at that to, as you were saying, like it's a big part of everyone's design. And when the
Hmm.
sun moves into that, everyone's going to be experiencing it. So we
Hmm.
just kind of look at that to kind of see how the world is going to feel.
A little bit, yeah. And also, as I kind of touched on earlier, it's really helped deepen our understanding of the gates,
Hmm.
which in human design, and when you first come to human design, it is kind of the shiny stuff about yourself because you're like, ooh, do I have this or do I have that? Well, we all have all of
Nice.
it. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, your human design guide.
And I'm Haley on this journey with you to uncover the power of human design.
Together, we're here to explore how embracing your authentic self is the ultimate path to a life of more freedom and fulfillment.
Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Well, hello there, Haley. How are you doing today?
Hi. Good.
Ooh, enthusiastic. Welcome to the new year.
I've had my coffee.
Right. We are living in the future today
Hmm. Hmm.
because we are publishing this on a different day. We're coming on January 5th on a Sunday. We wanted to get this episode out because we're going to be talking about the sun and earth energies for January. But
Woohoo.
we actually planned ahead a little. We're still in December while we're doing this. So
Hmm. Yes.
getting ready for Christmas is exciting, and it's always weird the whole like maybe people aren't supposed to like let you know when you recorded something, it doesn't flow right or whatever, but
Who cares?
who
We do
cares?
us.
We're still in December getting ready for Christmas for an upcoming visit, which we are both very excited about.
Hmm.
Get to see you soon,
Yes.
which I am so grateful for because that's one of the biggest benefits of doing this podcast with you is being able to see you all the
Hmm.
time on Zoom
E.
and chat with you and
Hmm.
have all this little fun conversations, which mostly we talk for a good, oh look, I'm looking at Zoom. We've been
I
on
think,
this call now for 38 minutes
yeah.
and we're just now hitting record. So yeah, you know how it is. Anyway, so we have now been doing these transit updates for a year because
Hmm.
you, before we got on, you said, did we start doing this in January? And I said, I think we did. And you weren't sure, but then you
I
went and
went to the
verified.
feed.
Yeah, because of my lack of organization skills, I'm getting there. I'm using
Hmm. Hmm.
Notion. I'm trying to become a more organized person, but I always have the best of intentions. But yeah, so it was easier just to go back and look at the podcast feed and see when
Hmm.
we started. It was January when we committed to doing it every month. And
Hmm.
wow, I can't believe we've gotten through. And so we're still
It's
going,
crazy.
yeah, we're still going to focus on the sun transits, mainly because, like you said, we get a better understanding of the energy. We're all a year wiser now, and
Hmm.
there may be more to talk about, but we thought we'd kind of play around with also looking at the earth energies
Hmm.
that's the happening at the same time because that's always going to be the same. Now all the other planets, the moon and everything, those are going to be different from year to year, month
Hmm.
to month
That
because
one's, they're a little bit more of a free for all.
right. But throughout the year, the sun and earth are always going to be in, what they call programming partners because
Hmm.
the way the human design mandala is set up is that the sun gate is going to be on one side of the mandala when the sun is highlighting that gate, and on the opposite side of the wheel, the mandala, is the earth, and they move in tandem like that.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is that it's not just the sun and earth that does that. It's the north node and the south node also does that. But because it's just their points on the mandala.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the importance there is each gate has what they call a programming partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what's they always work together,
Right.
and they inherently create this kind of tension because if you think about they're opposite each other on the
Mm-hmm.
wheel, they don't necessarily, they're not exactly opposites, but
They're
they
contracting.
they relate in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so each gate or each hexagram, gene key, whatever you want to look at, has its partner that is always moving with it. And so, like this, the day we're publishing this, the sun is moving into gate 54, ambition, and its programming partner is gate 53, beginnings. So the
Mm-hmm.
sun is going to be in 54, the earth is going to be in 53. Now as we move throughout the year, when it comes time for 53 to be the sun gate, we know the earth gate's going to be 54, and so we'll
Mm-hmm.
have a different perspective on it there. It'll be the same two gates, but it's going to express a little bit differently, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So inherently, I think we're still going to be focusing on the main sun gate, but also looking at it because they say the sun is the energy that you shine out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 70% of your the totalness of who you are, your expression, and what you're here to give in the world comes through that sun gate. But they also say, and this is something that I don't know about you, but it's been harder to wrap my brain around when because they say, well, your earth is what grounds you.
Mm-hmm.
What does that
Yeah.
mean
No,
to you?
I got no clue. Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes in astrology and human design systems and all this other stuff, they're talking these like terms and platitudes, and it's like, oh yes, of course, the sun and the earth is what grounds me.
Mm.
Okay. And we all accept that sometimes and we're like, yes, I understand that. But if you ever really this
Then
is
you
this
sit
is
with it and you're like,
yeah.
what?
This is where when you start to like teach something or share something, you really get a better understanding of it because you have to question like, well, what does that even mean? Like, how do I explain that to someone?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I have that all the time where like I remember I used the word Godspeed to Presley and he's like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Shit, how do I explain that?"
What does that mean? I know. I know we watched this movie last night called Sleeping Dogs, and at the end of the movie, I was like, ah, you better let sleeping dogs lie. And Lakeland's like, is that what they say? Is that what they mean? And I was like, yeah, it just means leave it alone. Like, you should just leave it alone. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those funny isms
Mhm.
that you're like, why would anybody say that in the first place? Because any dog
I know.
I've ever woken up, they're like, oh, hello.
I know.
But I assume it means don't sneak up on it and wake it up. They might get attacked. But anyways, off topic. Okay, so if this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, welcome. But also, what is the transit, Haley? So, what are
Mhm.
the sun? Tell us about a sun transit. What is that all about?
Okay. Still do that.
I know we all do, and and it's funny how we get quickly into this language of I have that, I don't have that. We do it all
Mhm.
the time. I mean,
Mhm.
you and I were just doing it earlier.
I know.
And but to remember that we all have these energies because they
Mhm.
these gates represent the archetypes of humanness. Basically, these are all the expressions that
Mhm.
we have. It's just some of us are going to experience them more consistently if you have it defined, and others of us are going to experience it and learn about the energy through other people. So it's
Mhm.
either an innate
Or
expression of
transits.
yours or transits, or it's something that you're here to learn about and explore. So you'll
Mhm.
learn more about it generally through other people because they may have it,
Mhm.
you don't. And whenever you come in contact with somebody who has that energy and you don't, you are fully more feeling their expression of it
Right.
because you're just reflecting
Mhm.
that back. Anyway, so yes, so roughly every 6 days it's going to move through a new gate. So it's each day it's in a different line expression, line
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just kind of talk about the sun and some of the descriptors of the gate, what it might mean, and we're going to add a little punch in there with the 53 and see if that helps. So this is a work in progress. I am have very little line 3 experimental energy in me, so this is very uncomfortable for me. I'm a 4-1, so I like foundation and stability and know what I know kind of thing.
Mhm.
Haley has a little she's a line 6. She's in her early phases of that, so she's definitely got a little more experimental energy, which she was telling me earlier, like, don't try to figure it all out at once. Just try something. I'm like, okay, I tried. My little guru. So, gate 54, gate of ambition.
Mhm. I do also want to point out we
Mm-hmm.
talked about this beforehand on
Mm-hmm.
going and bringing in these earth energies as well,
Mm-hmm.
the suns. It doesn't help for you that we're starting out in all of the gates that you don't have.
I do not have defined. That's correct.
Yes, right.
Every single sun and earth gate we're discussing today, I have 0 of them defined in my chart. So I'm definitely through the experience of others getting to
Mhm,
understanding, which is, I'm glad you pointed that out because it is interesting because for I think for a lot of people there will be some confusion around some of the stuff in here because you don't have your own personal consistent way of
mhm.
understanding it. I mean, your consistency creates its own issues, but it is interesting. And do you have all of them that we're
I
talking
have
about?
all of them that the sun is in. Yeah,
What
I
about
have all
the
of the sun gates.
earth?
I don't know. You didn't tell me what those are yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's just get started. The sun is 54. Earth will be in gate 53, beginnings. So these are both root center gates.
Mhm,
And gate 54 is also known as the marrying maiden in the I Ching.
mhm,
And in quantum human design, she calls it divine inspiration. And it reaches towards the spleen center through the
mhm,
channel of transformation.
mhm, mhm.
I believe that's the right channel. I
You
I
do this
look at
every
these.
time.
I know. What is this 54? It's
54.
it's crazy because there's 54, 32, and then there's 53, 42. Like I feel like it was just a big let's just fuck with them kind of thing. But
And I mean, they are like right next to each other.
I know, and people get them confused all the time, and myself included. Gate of ambition, marrying maiden. Yeah, transformation, channel transformation. I don't know why that, because I'm thinking of the other channel 53's in, which is maturation. But anyway, so, okay, so this is the root center gate. So what do we know
Mhm.
about that?
Well, let's see. It's adrenalized energy. It's not a consistent, like it's not a constant source of energy. It's a pulsing energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creation. It's a
Mm-hmm.
pressure center.
Mm, you
Yeah.
do good. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Well, I do have a lot of experience with
You
the
do.
root center.
Yes, and so it is adrenalized energy, like you said. So the root center uh, is all about that pulse of energy to get into to action, to do something, to create, right?
Hmm.
Whether when it's towards the spleen, it's a little more reactionary at times, towards the root or towards the solar plexus, more intentional. Towards the sacral, it's moving you in the direction for something for yourself. So the it's interesting that the what it's known as the marrying maiden
Hmm.
is steeped in the culture of the Chinese culture from which the I Ching, when it was first written, was very
Hmm.
much a patriarchal kind of. They're a lot more steeped in roles,
Hmm.
hierarchies, and
Tradition.
tradition. And unfortunately, women back then weren't really viewed as
Not really
people,
people.
more like property. Exactly. And so, but what it's the Marian maiden, what it's talking about in the I Ching is this energy of being prepared so that when favor looks upon you or when you're recognized, you're ready, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's about knowing because in the Chinese tradition here culture, it would have been no, I'm no expert. I'm only going by what I'm reading. It would be that there was a main wife And then there might be other women that were kind of there to help support, but would be moving into that position if something was happens to the first wife. There's one at the
Cool.
ready, right? And I apologize if I butchered that. I am so sorry. Please let me know. But basically, it's knowing where you can help support the whole. This ambition that is present here, that's the name for it, but it's about not just your own personal ambition, like
Hmm.
the full higher expression of this is not about your own personal ambition. It's more about humanity's drive for advancement, for the
So
tribe,
is
for people.
this a collective energy or tribal energy?
54 is tribal energy, I believe. Where is that at? Yeah, it's tribal. It is tribal energy. So it's the for tribal advancement. So your people.
Hmm.
So it's about having your ambitions and this urge to improve and strive, because it's in that energy also of reaching towards the spleen is going to be for betterment, for
Well-being.
wellness, well-being. Yes, what you need in order to survive, and this is also to thrive.
Hmm.
And it's about your own personal growth, but and your own personal ambitions, but in service to something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's the shadow sides of this are going to be like pretty obviously greed and
Hmm.
operating from a place of greed. When you think about, which is, I think, what a lot of us think about ambition is just
Yeah.
we uh, associate that with being greedy
Mhm.
and kind of stepping on the person underneath of you to get what you want,
I mean,
right?
and like I know we say this a lot, but like especially if a woman is described as ambitious, it's like
Mm-hmm.
seen in such a negative
Mm-hmm.
light, such a negative thing cuz like, "Oh, why is she so ambitious?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in this instance, through this gate, it shows us that ambition is can be a force for positive change. Because let's
Mhm.
look, and I don't know if she has this gate or not, but I'm thinking of the example of someone like Oprah Winfrey. Like, she had to be ambitious in order to get where she was. She didn't just get there
Mhm.
by accident.
Right.
She saw what was needed. She worked towards, which gift of this could also be seen as ascension. And I'm thinking about, these are Gene Keys terms,
Mhm.
aspiration. It's like being an example of what people can aspire to, right? Which is she
Mhm.
certainly is. And using your ambition as a catalyst for lifting yourself up, but also showing others how to keep
Mhm.
rising and striving for more and for better, right? So
Mhm.
you, but you're not doing it at the expense of others. You're there to help each
Right.
other. And so these are people that may be able to like set goals, achieve goals a little bit more because they're doing it for a reason, for a purpose, right?
Mhm.
Um, now the the Earth Gate being in 53, which is beginnings, which is development, it's starting things, right?
Mhm.
So there's also this kind of a self-focused in a way energy, but it's in a channel of beginnings and endings. So 53,
Mhm.
you have this gate. If you have this gate, you're probably familiar with it. There is this drive to always be like doing something.
Starting.
Now, we know that this is the sun gate of your husband, sun and
Mhm.
earth gate. We know he has a lot of ambition and a lot
Mhm.
of starting energy, right? Where he probably tends to get hung up is when it is more just self focused, when it is like his own need to like start something just to get into something. And he
Mhm.
probably is feeling a lot better. And when what he is wanting to start and work towards is something that helps benefit not just himself, but other people as
Mhm.
well, would be an explanation of it, I would think. What are your thoughts on that? Do
Yeah.
you have any?
Yeah, I think so cuz like a lot of times when he starts something, he then wants me to be involved in it too.
Yeah. And so where I look at these programming partners, because if you think about opposites on a wheel, and when we talk about opposites, I think in a general term, it's usually finding that balance point,
Mm-hmm.
right? It, often you're kind of swayed more one way
Yeah.
or
I mean,
another.
it's a tug of war.
Yeah.
Kind of like
And
that.
so when I looked at these side by side when I was putting this together, I could start to see, especially in the balanced and unbalanced aspects of things, where if you're unbalanced in one area, if you're unbalanced in the sun energy and the earth energy is what grounds you, I feel it can maybe help you get back into balance in the sun energy if you are looking at the earth energy and kind of digging into that and creating that foundation of balance in that gate
Mm-hmm.
so that it can then allow the sun gate to shine and express more in a balanced way. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay, so what I mean here is in the unbalanced expression of gate 54, this ambition, um, your ambition could become overwhelming. It could feel stressful to you. You may just be striving without knowing what you're striving for, focusing too much on your own personal gains. And this can start creating conflicts in your personal lives, business relationships, as the pursuit of success starts to overshadow collaboration. So you move into that greed
Mm-hmm.
expression more of like, what's in it for me? I need to do this for myself, right? Whereas if you started to feel that you're getting that direction, look at, okay, so what does the earth gate tell me? And a balanced expression of 53 is someone who is energized by starting new projects and feeling good about it and knowing, like, when you're balanced there, you know where to focus your energy and you set clear intentions. You trust the flow of timing because it is a root center gate,
Mm-hmm.
and you're honest with yourself, and you know what you can start, and you also know that you may not be the person that finishes it. So if you think about, okay, I have this urge to start something or do something, when you start thinking about if I'm the one to start it but maybe not finish it, I think it can kind of get you into that collaborative mindset
Mm-hmm.
of like, who else could be involved in this? How could this help benefit others? How can I start to look at it from a perspective
Mm-hmm.
of,
We finish this. Like, how can we? How can I pass it on so it does get finished?
yeah, which then puts you more into that looking at the people around you and how
Mm-hmm.
it could help benefit them and yourself at the same time. And so, looking at, okay, so what were some of the projects or ideas that I had that I worked on? And if I was in collaboration, how did they work out? Did I respond? Was I responding to it correctly? Was it following your strategy and authority? All
Mm-hmm.
that other stuff. All that other stuff. And so you kind of like look at both of them. They're not really in isolation. You can kind
Mm-hmm.
of suss out the relationship between the two of them, where, you know, and like I said, this is dicey for me because I'm trying to express this through other people's understandings of it and
Mm-hmm.
not always my own solid understanding of it. But really also looking at the ambitions of gate 54 as we transit through this energy, there is going to be kind of this, and it's at the beginning of the year. What's everybody doing at the beginning of the year?
Resolutions.
Which is going to be focus of our next episode, not a
Mm-hmm.
resolution, but maybe some intentions, just
Mm-hmm.
working with the energies you have. But it makes sense that at this time of year, this is where everybody's focused, their goals, what they want to maybe start, what their ambition is. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of striving energy, but is it the right time to actually do any of those things, or is it a time to kind of really reflect, collaborates, and maybe not even think about what the end process is going to, or the end, not process, the end result is going to
Mm-hmm.
be, but what you could start that could benefit not just yourself but others. What are you smiling about? Are
Oh,
you
because
struggling?
you should just know, you should listen to what you're saying because it
Oh,
applies to what we were talking about before we started recording.
does it? I never listen to what
Yes.
I'm saying. That's not
Yes,
my
it
job.
does.
Okay. So, anyways, so for gate 54, some contemplations during this time. What are some actions you can take to, even little ones, small ones, like maybe drinking more water throughout your day? But what can you do to improve your own life and those around you? How does your own ambitions, or what kind of ambitions do you have, not just for yourself, but for helping improve your family, community, your workplace, your world, whatever you want to look at? And really thinking about that striving and that ambition as a way to connect spiritually with your own, not with your own, but to connect spiritually with the totality of everything, because you are one person, but your job, but you're here to also contribute to the whole, and
Right.
what that contribution can look like. That was a really convoluted statement.
No, you're one person, but we are all connected.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, anyways, so just thinking about your actions in the environment, what you can do that's going to help improve everything around you. So, anyways.
Hmm.
Hmm. All right. So, moving
Ding.
on, January 11th, uh, almost, wow, almost at midnight. So, it's
Mm.
way on the very, very last few minutes of
Oh,
January 11th.
stretch.
Oh, it's the cat stretching.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry.
we're rolling dice here. My cat's back here in the background, and she's a chatty one, but this is also
Oh,
her sleepy time. So,
oh, she is tucking up tight.
oh, good, good. Okay, so the sun's going to move into
Mhm.
gate 61, mystery, which is in the head,
Yep.
and the earth will be in gate 62, gate of details, in the ajna, right? No,
No,
no, throat.
60.
It's in the throat. Sorry.
Yeah.
1762.
Surprised I don't have that one. I love the details,
I love the
but I have
details.
9.
You have the
That's
other details.
yes.
Yes, so gate 61, mystery. So it's in
Hmm.
the head. It's in that, it's where the knowingness starts in the chart.
Hmm.
So it's also known as, in the I Ching, as inner truth, and in quantum as wonder. And it
Hmm.
creates that channel 6124, which is called awareness. Okay.
Hmm.
So as I said, this is the start of knowingness.
Hmm.
What do we know about knowingness?
You may know things and not know it. I have a great example for this, just real quick.
Okay.
So let's see. Last Thursday we went to trivia,
Mm-hmm.
and the question was like, "What is this uh, sitcom that's no longer on air?" And they played the intro, like graphic and theme song and everything, but they blocked out what the thing was,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it looked like it was this old TV show, and none of us knew. And I was like, we're like, we had no idea. And then like after we turned in our answer, I was like, I want to say it's Lost in Space, but I have no idea if that's even a TV show. It was Lost in Space.
If it's
I
a
don't know
TV
where that
show.
came from, but that was I looked back and I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, I think that was my knowingness.
Yes, that is true. That is, yeah, that's kind of how it works. You weren't, when you focus on it and you try to make meaning and you try to rush the process of getting to the meat of something in gate
Hmm.
61, it doesn't work, because
No,
it's called the gate of mystery for lots of reasons, but it's like the
it's a
mysteries of the
little aloof.
universe. Yeah, the mysteries of the universe, of not knowing. And it's where it's not logical, which logic is forward focused, and it's working
Hmm.
with the things that we know in order to predict future events, where,
Hmm.
which is the scientific method. But then also the other head gate, gate 64, deals with experience and looking back and making meaning in that way. This one is just there. Hello. It's just plopped down from the ethers. And what does
Hmm.
it mean? Right. And so with that comes this constant need to like make meaning, or to find meaning in something.
Hmm.
And but it's also someone who enjoys just allowing the unknown to be at times and just kind of play with it almost. And there's a lot of, since it's knowingness, it's individual circuitry. So it's very much an inner truth kind of thing, self acceptance, self awareness, like a lot of kind of self focused energy there. And, but like most importantly, there's insights that are going to come through, but you don't know when they're going to come and you don't know how they're going to come. And you just kind of have to, I mean, that's why it's also called the gate of wonder, is just like kind of look at the world around you and the experiences and just kind of be in a sense of wonder and awe of like not knowing is a
Mm-hmm.
good way for knowingness to kind of come in when you accept that you just don't know the answers to
Mm-hmm.
certain things, and then the lots of possibility can come through. Now, gate 62 interestingly deals with details like we were talking about. It's preponderance of the small, it's preparation,
Mm-hmm.
and it connects to gate 17, that's logic circuitry of in the channel of acceptance. And so this is about almost, I want to say opposite, but a different way of looking at things, which is more in details,
Mm-hmm.
taking complex information, creating a language for it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
making something complex and taking it and being able to break it down so that the ideas there can be communicated,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's like it's like parsing it down into these like really understandable bite-sized
Mm-hmm.
pieces.
Yeah, to make those, the opinions of gate 17 become more tangible
Mm-hmm.
and testable, basically. And so it's very logic based, right?
Mm-hmm.
To understand, it uses a logic. Whereas 61 is not about logic at all,
Mm-hmm.
it's about mystery and magic. So you can see the tension between those two more clearly, I think,
Yes.
than you can in the 54 and the 53.
Mm-hmm.
And so remember though, when we talk about this is the main sun energy here, this mystery, and if you have this gate defined, especially in your sun gate, that if this is your sun gate, you're gonna have the other end of the stick there in the
Mm-hmm.
gate 62. So it is present within you. So when you are feeling kind of the unbalanced expression in that gate 61 mystery, is trying too hard to make sense. So
Mm-hmm.
you get, it can become a source of anxiety, though, not knowing, the confusion, feeling the pressure to always like solve the mystery, feeling frustrated when the answers don't come, and can make you feel a little disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of inspiring others with these aha mystery explosion knowingness coming through, you might feel a little more stuck and unable to express your insights. And so, if you were feeling that way, if you could lean into more of the idea of like, okay, so what do I know? Looking back at maybe some of the things that have come through before, let's say, were you able to take this knowingness and eventually distill it down into something with your propensity for being able to explain the concept, the complex, and make it more
Mm-hmm.
simple? When was the last time you shared some of this information that helps someone understand something better? So this is mainly, I'm looking at, if this is your sun gate energy, know that you have this earth gate energy that is going to help ground you, but really help you express your sun energy more. But even if you don't have it, if you're just contemplating these energies, it is seeing how sometimes reflecting on what you have been able to share and what you have been able to help with and what you are clear on the details can also kind of create space for something new and something unexpected to drop in. I don't even know if that makes sense or not.
I think so.
I don't even know. That's, uh, I think, did we start off saying that we're experimenting here of like
Yes, we
trying to
did.
figure out how these
Mm-hmm.
energies work together?
Mm-hmm.
This is real time learning here. This is how I do it. Uh, I go forward, backward, forward, backward. Think I know. Then I'm like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Maybe I do know. I don't know. Because my ajna is gate 43, which is the continuous of 61. Anyways, so I think another part of the dance between these two is 61 almost requires some quiet time because
Individual.
it's well, it's individual, it's an inner truth in order sometimes to allow the knowingness to come through is time spent sometimes doing something else, sometimes in solitude. This is like might come through like the idea of like in the shower, you're like, oh, I suddenly get it. Or
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where they said Einstein was when he developed or when he finally landed on the theory of relativity. I think he was something like in a boat, like just wandering around floating in a boat or something like that. Just taking relaxing time off kind of thing, not worrying about
Not
it too much.
actively trying to
Yeah, the more you try to
think of
force
it.
this, the further away it's going to get.
Yeah.
So when you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at when this energy comes through, it comes through after the first of the year. We've had all these ambition and we have all this ideas of things that we want to get into motion and everything, but the idea is maybe not striving too hard yet, just kind of you've created sort of a foundation there. Let's see what can
Mm-hmm.
come through.
You gotta like create the space for it.
Hmm. Yeah, and be open to what can come through. So let me ask you, with all that, do you have any insight into how these details and logic can work with knowingness and just kind of letting it flow? I'm just curious.
Well, let me see. Okay. Can you ask me in a different way? Like
Okay,
I'm
so you don't have gate 62, right?
no, because if I did, then I'd have a defined throat.
Oh, you have 17.
I do have 17. I have it twice.
Okay, so looking at it that regards, you have the 61.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't connect to the ajna, but you have the 61 and then you
Mm-hmm.
have the 17, which is the other end of that 62.
Mm-hmm.
So that is logical circuitry trying to express itself. And so, do you feel sometimes pressured to have a logical explanation for the things that you know?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, like, I think for me, my knowingness sometimes almost is just like it's more of a feeling. Like, it may not
Yes.
always be a tangible idea or like a tangible thought,
Hmm.
but it is like I just have this feeling about things.
Yeah, that's knowingness. You can't explain it. There's no explanation for it. You're
But
just
then
like,
it is difficult because I mean I have both of the other head gates, so I'm always
mm-hmm,
struggling with that as well. But then it's like my logic always wants to be able to explain things, but
mm-hmm,
then I just have this feeling that I know something about something, and then it's like
mm-hmm.
Presley looks at me like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I can't express it, but I know it."
You just you just summed it all up. Because
Thank you.
that's because that's what 62 does for the 17. It does help express and make that logical argument
Hmm.
more palatable, testable, tangible, like we just said earlier. And so with not having that gate 62 connection consistently, that's kind of what happens to the 17 is it just like flounders. Okay, so I think we kind of sussed that out. So let's move on to the next one.
Hmm.
Let's move on to the next one. So, January 16th, we move into gate 60, uh, gate of acceptance,
Hmm.
and the earth moves into gate 56, stimulation.
Let's see, do I have that one?
We
No.
also refer to gate 60 more by its I Ching name, which is limitation. It's in the root.
Mm.
Quantum human design calls it conservation. And it's in the channel of mutation, the sacral moving up to this, or excuse me, the root moving up to the sacral, the 63, 60-3. That's that
Mhm.
channel, mutation. Um, the earth's in gate 56, like I said, stimulation, which is in the throat center,
Mhm.
also known in the I Ching as the wanderer,
Mhm.
and in quantum as expansion. And so, gate 60, limitation. What do you remember about this gate? Acceptance,
If
limitation.
if I remember correctly, this is the one that kind of like I think the whole channel we've talked about, I think the whole channel is like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
So I think 60 is the one that's kind of focusing on what needs to be kept, what needs to stay so it's not total chaos.
That's how we usually do talk about it, is that it's a root gate pulse, so it is also individual, and it is the channel of mutation, which mutation is always that leap forward, bringing
Mhm.
something new through. That's how evolution happens. There's usually a mutation, right? Which
Mhm.
is the whole experience of the individual in the context of human design. Everything in that individuality is about doing things a little bit differently in new ways, and uh, bringing that new energy in. That's the gate 3, which is chaos. There, that's what it's about. Is about using the energy of that 60 as a sort of a foundation. It's keeping some limits on it, and so it does it does create this pressure to get into action, to change, right? It's wanting to bring
Mhm.
through change, but also, what do you keep the same? Now, also, you want to think about the limitation in the aspect. It doesn't mean that all of the things that are in a conservative, like, not conservative, not all of the things need to be conserved to move forward. Like, you
Mhm.
can't drag all of it with you, because I think I was reading the Gene Keys, who's talking about this gate Gene Key, is that in the more lower energy aspect of this, it's like all the things that hold us back, all the limits we put on ourselves, all
Mhm.
the, he's talking about in society, all the laws, like all the things that we constructed and built in order to create the safety, the law and order
Stability.
for everybody, the stability, so that everybody's taken care of. Well, if that's never checked, if that's never examined, and it just keeps, it's like you just keeps piling more and more, to,
Mhm.
instead of looking at it with fresh eyes and like, what do we really need to keep? And because if you look at, let's, this is not even what I was going to talk about, but I'm thinking about the
Go
laws
with
that
it.
we had that no longer apply, like all the blue laws we have
Oh
that
my
people
god.
always refer to. The states have
Mhm.
these blue laws, like
Like
that's gate 60's limitations there. It's
I'm
like, we don't
pretty
need that.
sure there's one in South Carolina that you can't have an ice cream cone in your back pocket.
That's right, and that's, damn it, that
Why?
should be a law.
This is so off topic, but why was that ever a law? I can't wrap my head
I
around
would
that
I would
one.
verify before, but yes. So
Very good.
that's a good
Mhm.
example here. Is like, these laws were created. Now, some of them might have not always been in found in the, not all of these may have been established for a logical, real reason. It may
Or
have just
the
been,
benefit of all.
yeah. But,
Mhm.
you know, they're still there. Nobody's ever gone back and looked at them. And unfortunately, those are also some of the areas where people who want to cling on to the past and want to keep things as they were for their own sense of control can go
Mhm.
back and go, oh, like, but that's a law. We can't
Mhm.
change that. But we can change the laws. Like,
Mhm.
that's the whole argument that we have in this country now, between, do we interpret the Constitution as a living document or as set in stone, which I believe in a living document. It should be
Yeah.
growing with us. But a lot of conservatives politically want to look at it like you'd look at the Bible and say, like, oh, well, There it is. We can't change it, but you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
You can change it and you need to change
Yeah.
it because anything that doesn't change stagnates and dies.
And dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with this gate, a lot of times you could feel held back. You could feel that you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a choice, that this is just the way it is. These are the limits that have been placed or whatever. But you're encouraged to say, well, is that really true? And then also realize that, like you said, we can't just throw everything out or it's just chaos. There's no foundation for anything to hold
Mm-hmm.
on to, right? And so what's interesting here with gate 56 being the earth gate, this gate of stimulation. It's in the throat center. The channel there is curiosity, that it's about storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and storytelling as a way to kind of have people look at things a different way, maybe getting curious. I mean, that's the name of the
Mm-hmm.
channel, being curious. And maybe it's experiential energy there. So maybe it's like, okay, so if we're going to look at the limitations, we're going to look at the past. If we're thinking about what we're going to move forward with, what have we learned? What do we
Mm-hmm.
want to take forward? Because that's also in that energy there of this is the wanderer. It's the bard, the one that tells the story,
Mm-hmm.
tells the tale of the hero and everything, crafting those stories about what has happened. And so we know that storytelling is one of the oldest and really most effective ways for humans to learn
Communicate.
and to grow is
Mm-hmm.
through understanding through story what happened. So if you're finding that challenging during that time or any time when you're working with this gate 60, is maybe looking what has happened, what would we like to happen, what do we want
Mm-hmm.
the story to be.
Yeah.
So
Or even looking like what stories have you told yourself? Like
mhm,
examining those and seeing are those actually true?
right. Yeah, because the unbalanced expression of gate 60, like we said, there's some of those things we mentioned there. But you can tend to focus on your limitations and feeling blocked and unable to
Mm-hmm.
move forward. But if you could lean more into reflecting on life's events and sharing them in a more meaningful way, um, crafting a new story and a new potential for what you'd like to come through
Mm-hmm.
would be a better, not a better, would be a good way to help you manage and move through this energy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So that brings us to on January 21st, moving into gate 41. And so this is traditionally seen as the beginning of the new year in human design.
It's interesting that we started a root gate.
Well, it's interesting that a lot of these gates, it's going to be going through like all the solar plexus and all this other stuff throughout this quarter. But we'll dig into that later.
Mm-hmm. It's very
Maybe.
interesting.
Maybe we'll dig into that if we could ever get through this. So, gate 41, the sun, is
Mm-hmm.
known as contraction in traditional. In the I Ching, it's called decrease or decrease. I'm sorry. I don't know why I forget how to speak when I say details and decrease.
I don't know. You really focus on the di.
Yeah. In quantum, she calls it imagination, and it's in a root center gate again.
Mm-hmm.
Channel 4130, which is a channel of recognition. And
Mm-hmm.
then the earth gate is going to be gate 31, gate of influence. I Ching is called leading, and in quantum, she calls
Hmm.
it the leader.
What's so interesting about
What?
this?
Hmm.
That all of these, I'm pretty sure all of these Earth gates so far have been like in the throat.
Mm.
Because we had 62,
No,
56.
53 is not in there. 53 is
Oh,
in this
53 is
uh,
in the root.
root.
But all the other ones, 62, 56. Now we're into 31.
Mm-hmm. And 33
Interesting.
is the next one.
33. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think about it, if it's root gates, throat gate, there is kind of, guess, that wanting to like get into action, but also at the same time have to wait for the right time. That's what the root gates are about, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
timing, being prepared, And then the throat gates, unless you've got a motor to the throat, those gates are about waiting for the right time, feeling the pressure to move
Mm-hmm.
forward, the pressure to express or to get into action, both of them. I mean, the root is actual pressure center, but the throat,
Mm-hmm.
often undefined throats,
Feel pressure to
an
speak.
unmotorized throat feel pressure to speak and to initiate.
Mm-hmm.
But very good observation there. Okay, so oh, and us. So gate 31 is also in the channel with gate 7, the alpha. Okay, so it's a lot of leadership
Mm-hmm.
energy there in gate 31.
Yeah.
But gate 41,
Which is reaching to the solar plexus. I don't know if you
yes,
said that.
I don't know if I did, but yes, it's in the root, reaching to the solar plexus. And so this is emotional energy. So I always associate it with imagination, like she said, with having a vision, with there's a creative energy there in the solar plexus. It's creating with intention. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a lot. And so this is having the vision for something. What do you want to create? These are visionary people. These are, which is funny because I always said to you that I always felt that you had a creative, especially visually creative streak within you. And you always said, no, not really. You didn't feel it. But
Mm-hmm.
now you're like really digging photography and graphic design and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. You're just playing with it. You're just having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay. I remember telling you that in high school and stuff, but you're like, no, I'm not
No,
creative.
I'm not creative.
But now you are seeing that, oh, yeah, you're really
Mm-hmm.
enjoying
Well, because
looking at
like
things.
I don't know. I see creativity as like drawing and painting. Like I don't know. That's why I always said like, oh, I'm not very creative because like
Hmm.
that's where my head goes for being creative.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, a fault in the not human, in the English language between creative and artistic
Mm-hmm.
being, there's difference there because we're all creative and that's what we
Mm-hmm.
talk about a lot now. So I think you have a better understanding of what I mean
Yeah. Yes.
there. It's it's our whole existence as humans is to be creative. That's all we
Yeah.
are here to do, is to create. When we're not creating, we are not
Dull.
really living. Yeah, we're dull, we're depressed, we have nothing, there's no output.
Mm-hmm.
um Not that it has to be measured by anything, but it's just like the natural world is all about creation. It's
Mm-hmm.
always expanding to create something new. Even in cycles of death, it's preparing to create something new,
Mm-hmm.
right? So so this is 41, is that urge to create a experience, a feeling. It connects to gate 30, which is all about passion. It's like, what are you really passionate about? What do you want to bring forth? What do you have a vision for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And quite often it is actually through creative things like writing or painting or drawing, all these things that actually are creative, not creative, artistic or creative. I don't know. I shouldn't have said that. But what's interesting here is it's best to only focus on kind of one experience at a time to see it through, kind of thing, because it is experiential. It's starting off this experience of, what do you want to create? What are you passionate about? Like, what is really going to keep you going, as you create this vision for a better relationship or just making something new? Because then it curves up to the 35 or 36, 35, which is also about learning through the experience and what was gained. What did you
Mm-hmm.
know? What did you learn? What did you feel? All those things. So this energy in gate 41, when it's balanced, you are full of, you see a world as an imaginary or imaginative playground, I should say, where anything's possible, and you just kind of let your mind go wild. There is a lot of daydreaming aspect in there. I'm very curious about new experiences. Like, you're really like ready to just explore life and
Mm-hmm.
explore for the feeling of things. But when it's unbalanced, you can find yourself more in the not looking at things in positive possibility time of thing, but also like kind of in the more of focusing on what negative things could happen.
Mhm.
You're not really sure what it is you want. You're not really sure what's going to satisfy those emotional needs. You're maybe pursuing things that don't really fulfill you. It's just kind of like going through the motions kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so one of the one of the things to consider here with this gate 31 with this leadership energy, because it is a collective energy. It's elected energy, really. It's where
Mhm.
democracy is in the chart, is in the 7 and 31, because the 31 is the voice of the people, right?
Mhm.
This is what gives the people elect the leader to be their representative. And so when I think about if you were kind of feeling dull or not knowing where to focus or what to pursue, think about it more in that energy of the collective energy. What could your personal pursuits, your personal inspirations, your personal passions, how can they help contribute to the collective?
Mhm.
And maybe they always say when you're uninspired, think about helping others, right? Or when you're depressed, think about helping others. Like,
Mhm.
how can that have an impact? Being more in service than self focused, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. So during this time, as we said, this is quite fitting. This is the beginning of
Mhm.
the new quarter, about what you want to focus on, what you want to create, what you want to bring into being. Are you in more of a possibility mindset, or are you looking at the negatives of things? Are you allowing this lack of possibility influence you more than just daydreaming? I will be honest, I have a hard time daydreaming. I mean, I can get
Mhm.
lost in thought, but it's not always good thought. And when you think about, especially in the whole like manifestation process, they're always
Mhm.
like, dream big and see yourself as this. And what does your ideal day look like and everything? And
Mhm.
this is something that I really have to, I hate to say actively work at, but I really do tend to look towards reason and what's possible.
Mhm.
Conditioning there that has just got a very strong hold on me,
Yeah.
I think for
I have
sure.
the gate defined twice, and I very much feel as you feel.
Feel as you feel.
I
I got
know.
you. And so maybe give yourself permission during this time to just try it a little bit, daydream a little bit. Um, just take the time to allow yourself to play, because I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And the more you do that, you strengthen that muscle, you strengthen those pathways in your brain to give you a more ability to really run with it and imagine your life as you would like it to be. And so, also, if you want to lean in real quick to that gate um, 31 energy as you're thinking about daydreaming and planning and all
Mhm.
this other stuff, what's the vision that you have that you want to share with others? And how can you make it a little clearer and easier for them to follow along? Think big during this time and think about how your dreams can help the dreams of other people and help bring something better into the world. All right, so let's move on to the last gate of the month. Gate, excuse me, on January 27th, in the wee hours of the morning, we're going to move into gate 19, which is the
Mm.
gate of wanting in the root.
Mhm.
Earth will move into gate 33, gate of privacy. But gate 19 is also
Mhm.
known in the I Ching as the gate of approach. I always like the name of that gate, the gate of approach.
The gate of approach.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Quantum, she calls it attunement. And 19 reaches also to the solar plexus, to the gate 49 in the
Mhm.
channel of synthesis. This is tribal energy. And this is the channel where that marriage, divorce, that kind of thing lives, contracts,
Mhm.
black and white
Bonds.
thinking. Yeah, bonds, all that stuff. Yeah. So gate 19 is, there's a lot of sensitivity in this gate, and for good reason. And sensitivity, we tend to look at, maybe, I don't know if it's just our culture, uh, but of, oh, they're so sensitive. It's almost like not respected sometimes
Hmm.
when
I
you say
don't think
someone
that's
is,
just our culture.
yeah, when you say someone's sensitive, because trust me, when someone says to you, you're too sensitive, they're not being nice.
No,
And
no.
I guess I do not have this gate defined, but I am a sensitive person, and I started embracing that many years ago when I realized people are lucky that I'm sensitive, because that means
Hmm.
I am aware of what's happening and what people
Hmm.
need. And that's what's in this gate. And it's focusing on securing the fundamental needs of the tribe, like food, safety, spirituality, shelter,
Hmm.
all these things, right? And in this gate is where the foundations of these tribal connections, and like I said, it's marriage. It's reaching to the solar plexus, and it has a sensitivity to know, through feeling, to know who can be like trusted, bonded with, and
Hmm.
who can't. And so within that energy, there is a tendency to, especially in the full channel, to, if you find out you're wrong about someone or something, like, because you're basically entering into those like contracts of like,
Hmm.
okay, we agree, like marriage is a contract, we agree on these things. And then when that trust or that contract is broken, there's no going back in
Burn
this
the bridge.
energy. Yes. And I will say that everybody I know that has this energy definitely understands that there is no going back. You broke my trust. You said you would be there for me. I'm talking about the whole channel. And you have the whole channel, don't you?
No, I
No,
just have
no,
19.
no, you're undefined. I forgot. You're undefined emotionally. And so there, that requires a sensitive nature to understand the nuances and to feel that from people. And
Hmm.
it's with good reason. Um, and that also makes you someone who, like I said, I may not have this defined, but I understand I have other gates that also are very similar in nature, like gate 50, about responsibility and
Hmm.
needs. So maybe I'm a little more forgiving when people maybe don't
Hmm.
live up to their end of the bargain. Sometimes I can see it a little bit easier, but there's also in gate 19 a lot of sensitivity to the natural world, to animals in particular. They say people with this gate defined, especially if it's your sun gate, may be very sensitive and communicate with animals. I think we've
Oh, yes.
established that you're very connected to your animal.
Yes. She looks at me for like, I swear she looks at me for clarity. If Presley like will say something to her, she'll like look at me like, what the fuck is he saying? I swear.
You're like, it's okay. But one of the shadow sides of this 19 is being overly focused on your personal needs and heightened sensitivity, where you do become, oh, they're too sensitive. But, and when I say in that regard, I think the too sensitive part in a if we're going to look at it in a open and fair way, when
Hmm.
people's feelings are easily hurt because they may be more sensitive, to understand that not everything is personal is
Mm,
kind of hard to see that sometimes,
it
especially
is.
if you have this gate, that it may be feeling affecting you personally, but if you can take a step back and look at it, if that was really the intention or is it just the reaction, because sometimes people are intentionally trying to hurt you, and a lot of times they just do it by accident. And if
Hmm.
you are someone who is more tuned to the nuances of people's behaviors and
Hmm.
whatnot, it can be a lot easier to become
Yeah.
offended, or when it may not have anything to do with you at all.
Yeah. I mean, like the majority of the time where I get hurt by Presley is not necessarily what he said, but
Hmm.
it's the tone that he says things in.
Said every woman who ever walked the earth in relationship with a man. And they look at us and say, what?
I know.
I mean, the tone. I get that all the time with your dad.
Well,
Not him,
conversely, he
not
like,
always him hurting my feelings, but him just annoying me. It's like the way
yeah,
you say it.
yeah. But then Presley also will, I like the same way. The opposite is the same with Presley as well. Like he'll be upset by the tone that I say things in, especially if
Mm,
it comes across as a condescending tone. That's a big trigger point.
mm. Wow, we just got a little glimpse into your marriage.
Mm.
So, gate 33 then is a throat gate, right? We were talking about
Mm-hmm.
that. It's retelling and it's the uh, privacy and retreat, right? So, that kind of, if you think about that's also that collective
Mm-hmm.
energy of taking the time to really process uh, what has happened or to be able to process and find your own meaning in something. So maybe when you are feeling out of balance or maybe overly sensitive, maybe taking that step back and really looking at it through the lens of what happened, what do you think happened, what really happened, what was your experience of it, all that privacy and retreating. Like you have to take time away in order to really allow the meaning to unfold, which
Mm-hmm.
is also interesting because the 1949, as it continues up towards through the solar plexus, it reaches over towards the will center through the 40 and the 37, which
Mm-hmm.
there's also within that channel there a need to have some privacy, have some downtime to be able to make sure that you can continue to feed your tribe and take care of those people. You also have to take care of yourself. And so there can be, you can see a little bit of that correlation there with those programming partners of a need to, you may be sensitive and you, or not sensitive, you may be looking to establish these relationships, these connections, find these people to bond with, but you also need to spend some time on yourself and reflect and really maybe look at your motivations, like what it's going to mean to you, what you're looking for, like reflecting in those ways, if that makes, does that make sense?
Yeah, you gotta understand why you're getting into it, what you're looking
Mhm.
for before you can really go look for it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, there could be a lot of frustration in that gate 19 when it's imbalanced of like trying to communicate your needs or why you felt this was important, all those things. And so just to take some time to reflect and really before you just kind of blow the whole thing up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh.
Hi. Yeah, Lily agrees.
So during this time, as we close out January and we're going through this energy of gate 19, maybe reflecting on, is there an emotional need that you feel is not being met? How does it affect you? How do you express what you need to other people in your life? Do you just
Mm,
expect them to know it because you know what
yeah.
they need? That's a
Yes.
problem there. That's a problem there. You're sensitive to others' needs, so you know, but how do they know what you need? Do you let them know?
It's
Maybe
that's
leaning into that
tough to
gate
work on.
33. Yeah, leaning into that gate 33 a little bit of like, how can I how can I reflect on what happened and explain it so that people could
Mhm.
understand what I need or what I felt I was missing?
I love her so much.
Here's gate 19. A very needy, sensitive cat has expressed
Yes.
her. Come here. Okay.
Oh,
We have a new.
we have a new co-host.
Jeez.
I love her so much.
Yeah, she's sweet. This is her perch she has taken up in my office lately, is right here on my chair, right next to
Hmm.
me. Well, it's a
Hmm.
good thing we're wrapping up this
Yes.
episode because she's going to be talking a lot. So, and also, really, one more thing. Do you view sensitivity as a strength or a weakness? Right? That's a good one
Mhm.
to ask yourself because that could really inform the way you do or don't express your sensitive
Mhm.
nature.
I want to say one thing here that
Mm-hmm.
has helped me, I think, with understanding sensitivity. Like I very much I'm going to say I cry easily,
Mm-hmm.
angry, sad. Like I cry easily. But what I've learned kind of recently, first of all, depending on what emotion the tears are being produced by, they have a
Mm-hmm.
different structure, which is really cool.
Oh.
But what tears are, like why you cry, it's a
Mm-hmm.
release of excess emotion or like
Mm-hmm.
stimulus. Like it's not a bad thing. It's actually you're
Mm-mm.
releasing it to be in a more positive state. So you're back to kind of this level space instead of being overwhelmed by things.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so tragic that we don't allow men to express themselves or feel that they can express themselves in that way. It's so I hate seeing it, like especially in your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like he definitely sees like when he's really emotional, like when his parents died or something is around his family, just the way he
Mm-hmm.
feels sometimes. You can see it makes him emotional. And they all do this thing. You Ralph, remember Ralph at your
Rehearsal dinner.
rehearsal dinner trying to express his emotions? They do this they try to hold it in. They really
Mm-hmm.
try to hold it in. It's so sad that, I mean, we all do it to a certain degree. It's very
Mm-hmm.
hard to express our emotions. I don't like crying in front of people. I hate it. And
Mm-hmm.
what does that say? It's like it makes me feel vulnerable. And I know I don't like feeling vulnerable in
Mm-hmm.
front of people, even the ones I trust the most. I guess I do in some way see that as a weakness because even though I know it's necessary
Mm-hmm.
to not block your emotions, we still all do it. We all do it. And I like what you just expressed there because I don't know about you, but I have quite often found that all of a sudden at the end of the day, or sometimes at the beginning of the day, I will just like I feel the need to cry and I'm like so
Mm-hmm.
emotional and I don't know why. And then I'm just like, all right, well, like you said, something just needs to
Mm-hmm.
come out.
Like,
And you can't always find a logic, not a logical, but a reason for it. And I don't think
mm-hmm.
you need to. I
No.
think you can just, the more you just let it out.
Yeah. And like if I have that feeling like earlier in the day, if I don't let it out then like my whole day, it could be a like I'm like a hairpin trigger. Like something so simple could make like set me off. It's like if I don't express it then I'm like on this edge all day.
You? No,
Me?
no. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah.
I get it.
Mhm.
Yes, so that's
But
a good point. So
mhm.
honor your sensitive nature.
Mm.
Okay, so since we've gotten through all those gates as best as I could, what time it is, Haley?
The incarnation cross of the week.
That is correct. We are coming back at you in 2025 with
Woo.
incarnation crosses, which we do one every episode mostly. We did hit a pause there in December, but there's 192 incarnation crosses, which comprise of your sun and earth gates on both your conscious and unconscious side
Mhm.
of your chart. So that means incarnation crosses consist of programming partners. It is the balance between these energies. But overall, since we talked about how much of your full energy expression is contained in these gates, then this is a big part of your
Mhm.
purpose in this world. But it's also just the energy, since they're defined gates in your chart, that you bring with you into the room, whether you
Mhm.
realize you're doing it or not. And what we talk about here is if we are following your strategy and authority and you're living authentically as yourself and the way you're designed to do, then this is the energy that naturally wants to emanate from you and you bring into the room. So that's why we talk about incarnation
Mhm.
cross. So,
Yeah.
excuse me, I have an itch in my
Mm.
eye. Okay.
I
Left
don't know.
angle crosses cycles.
Yes.
Sun on the conscious side is in gate 54, ambition.
Ambition.
Earth is in gate 53, beginnings, which obviously we just talked about, which is why I picked
Yes.
it. And then on the unconscious side, gate 32 is the sun gate, continuity.
Mm.
And Earth is gate 42, growth.
Ah. So it's ambition, beginnings, continuity, and growth.
There
Now
you
I got
go.
it.
Okay, so
Okay.
if you were born under the incarnation cross, the left angle cross of cycles, you're here to create lasting change through steady, thoughtful progress. Each time you see a project through, you lay the groundwork for something new and more meaningful, drawing from the wisdom of what you've already accomplished. Rather than rushing forward, you know the power of waiting until others recognize the value that you bring. Cat just opened the door. That timing helps ensure every cycle you complete opens the door to fresh ideas and deeper alignment.
Thanks,
Your,
Lily.
st- your strength lies in sensing which concepts are truly worth pursuing. By tuning into Source, you understand when the moment is right to turn an inspired idea into reality. You know that true creation happens when you trust your inner knowing, honor the natural pace of development, and let each completed cycle make room for something even more expansive. When we trust the flow, focus on what matters, and allow our vision to unfold in its own time, we bring forth something beautifully authentic and lasting.
Oh, it's a good reminder.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I didn't even, as I was reading this through, I didn't see the connection that these are those two channels,
Oh,
5432, 5342. This is a heavy lifting cross here because
aha, yes, it is.
this means that if you have this cross, you have both of those channels defined in your chart, which
Mm-hmm.
means the energy is always on. You're definitely a
Force of nature.
yeah, you are a mover, a shaker. You're getting shit done. That helps all of us. And when it's done too, because you can come to completion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so there we go. There we wrapped it all up in a nice little bow.
Mm-hmm.
We had a beginning, we had an ending.
We did it.
We're gonna make it a solid ending by not rambling on much further. We're just gonna say a few things here that if Lily wants to say. But don't forget, if you are, as you move through these transits and you're wondering, do I have this? Do I have that? Make sure you can at least get your body graph chart on the website. You can always see that. It's free to download. If you want to deep dive into your own personal design, I have the Human Design Guidebook for purchase, which is there to go through every aspect of your design in print PDF format so that you can always have it with you to refer back to. You can see when you're balanced and unbalanced, all these things that can help you kind of learn to apply some of this stuff. And of course, I would always love to work with you one on one. You can find all those options on my website of how we can work together. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Human Design Hive Substack, where you'll get these podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox whenever we release a new one, plus some other stuff that we put out there, like transit updates and everything else, and more to come. And yeah, just wrap that all up. And
Mm-hmm.
any last words, Haley?
Mm,
Oh.
I don't think so.
I know, I always ask you, you're like, I appreciate that you always think about it first. You're like, no.
I'm like, do I have something? No, you said it good.
Okay. All right. Well, then with that, we'll just say bye for now. And until next time, you take care, Haley, and see you later.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.